All over Europe, cities are faced with a challenge to use cultural resources to reposition the city in a culturally and economically more diversified way. Related to this is a clear recognition of the growing importance of cultural resources for economic and community development. Culture in many places plays a leading role in urban redevelopment strategies based on historic preservation or local heritage. With the disappearance of local manufacturing industries and periodic crises in government and finance, culture is more and more the business of cities. To get an idea, we consider the cases of Carlsberg and Castlefield and ask, what is the role of culture in the process of urban transformation?
Art, culture, design and sport are among the activities Carlsberg wishes to use the empty buildings for when the brewery moves to Fredericia. There are two well-known theories about city life: creative class and retrification. The creative class can be divided into three groups: the bohemians, the writers, painters and musicians, the creative core, the engineers and architects, etc., and the creative professionals like directors, business people and lawyers, etc. Even though the bohemians are a small part of the creative class distinction, they are a dynamic force for the rest of the groups. The bohemians belong to the upper class. The theory about gentrification is about the possibility of getting the bohemians to reside in a district with the purpose to boost his attraction of the area and the housing prices. The idea is, when the trend-setting bohemians live in a certain district, they will, because of their high cultural status, attract restaurants, cafes and galleries, which will then appeal to a more economical, viable, financial stronger crowd. They will start to invest in the district and make the area more attractive. Whether we talk about Carlsberg area as being a business or residential area, the value lies in its city life, which is difficult to create and to attract the bohemians to the area. If you can make room for them, for example through low rent, you can create from the start an identity which is important. After that, the powerful business people who crave for the good city life will want to live in Carlsberg, which in the end would generate high value for the residential areas.
Empty buildings and vacant sites in Manchester, long abandoned by industry, gave young people the chance to create new forms of music production and reception, warehouse parties, raves and clubs. To the advantages of rooms which were practically or completely rent-free, were added technological innovations that enabled them to break free of the big music companies and set up their own labels. In Manchester, for example, the punk and new wave of the late 70s spawned a local industry based on making and distributing music. This played by no means insignificant part in the change of Manchester's identity from a manufacturing city to a serviced industry centre.
It seems to be a city where there's a whole range of different sort of people, but everyone knows each other. There's certain places where people gather and swap ideas, and the whole scene sort of is self-creating. It's a city that's small and big all at the same time, and it gives it that special atmosphere that you just don't see in London.
You're having, if you like, an inner city urban culture which is actually being voiced through a cultural medium in such a way that it's more down to earth than any other particular scene that has actually taken place.
The media is centred very much on this Manchester explosion that's happening at the present time, and the whole thing's self-perpetuating, isn't it?
Promoting the good business, obviously, in Manchester, around places where nothing was happening a few years ago.
Feet on the brat, feet on the brat, feet on the brat with a baseball bat, oh yeah, oh yeah.
The Carlsberg area has been locked for over 100 years, so new temporary use will not happen overnight, and people will maybe not understand what a new district in Copenhagen has to offer to its citizens. It is Carlsberg's undertaking to create city life before they start building, and to start on using the possibilities the areas has to offer.
today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you.
Much of the popular youth music culture in Manchester was inspired by the young bands and groups which came from the city. This so-called Manchester music was different from what had been before. It was direct, raw and streetwise. The city's electric mix of music has helped to create the sense among its inhabitants that Manchester is the most important city in world music. The Hacienda nightclub was the product of Manchester, its people, its mood and its time. The famous nightclub was set up as an alternative platform and venue for new bands, many of whom had struggled before. In the early 1990s, the regeneration of Manchester turned a corner. The success of the music scene, which had found a perfect focus as the Hacienda, made a major contribution to the regeneration. The spirit and the profile of the city had changed, and the perception that Manchester had re-energized itself attracted positive press interest, more creativity, increased use of vacant spaces and more investment in the city. Since the early 1990s, many of the places where the regeneration process has taken the strongest hold in the city are spaces that were first repopulated by recording studios, rehearsal rooms and in particular clubs. In Manchester today, we are surrounded by new buildings, sparkling hotels and cafe bars, rampant property development and retailers galore.
Sustainability is a concept which deals with mankind's impact through development on the environment. Sustainable development is development which meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Sustainability is about environmental protection, sustained economic growth and social equity. The chair is a symbol on how sustainability is composed and how the three factors, social, ecological and economical, are affecting each other. Example given. If you take away one of the factors, the two other factors can't hold the composition and it will not be sustainable. The chair will fall. To get an idea, we consider the cases of Carlsberg and Castlefield and ask, how is the sustainability dealt with over the process of urban transformation?
Social sustainability is focused on promoting social interaction and cultural enrichment. It emphasizes respecting social diversity and ensuring that priority is on social capital, which is our shared values and equal rights. After the industry left Manchester in the 1950s and trade declined dramatically in the 1970s, the city lacked the identity it had as an industrial and trading city. Many people moved away because there was no work to get. Whole areas became deserted with nothing left but empty warehouses and docks. Manchester had to reinvent its identity to become socially attractive. The revival revolved around projects that were focused on leisure, culture and lifestyle. Castlefield is one of the revived areas, from decaying buildings and neglected canals to an attractive and interesting neighborhood with, for example, an industrial museum, cafes, hotels and a lot of culture and leisure events. This work has promoted social interaction and enrichment of culture to create a social sustainability in Castlefield.
The ideas behind the Carlsberg area regarding social sustainability is promoting diversity not only culturally but also in types of housing facilities. The urban life in the area is supposed to be versatile and active, a 24/7 district that is active and safe at all times with many different experiences and activities. The diversity in the area is emphasized by people in all age groups and ethnic groups from all social statuses.
Ecological sustainability is about maintaining and enhancing the quality of the environment. The industrial area of Castlefield was led to an urban development in 1982, but it didn't focus on the environment. Reasons for that could be that ecological sustainability wasn't a big topic and a well-known world problem in the 80s. Another reason could be that the economy was not stable and social problems were more important at the time.
In the transformation of the Carlsberg area, they are focusing very much on the ecological sustainability in many different ways. The environmental consciousness today has much to do with reducing the climate change and Copenhagen wanting to be Europe's environmental metropole. One of their initiatives is hosting the climate conference in 2009.
Castlefleet, like so many former industry areas in Manchester, was not functioning economically as former operations or actions disappeared from there. In the 1990s, market-oriented economic strategies were adopted. The city centre was renewed and attempts were made to repopulate central areas like Castlefleet. The potential in the economic regeneration in Castlefleet lies in the success of heritage and tourism and the cultural and creative industries.
In Carlsberg, the idea is that active social life will provide good economy in the area based on the social diversity and sufficient care of environment. The proposal for economical sustainability in the area recommends high-density building where quantity and quality go together. With good branding and positive economy, investors will be attracted. In Carlsberg, when the industry is leaving, Carlsberg will improve ecology and society and make it attractive. By attracting businesses and selling buildings, they benefit on the investment. In Castlefield, when the industry left, the society and economy faded. That is why the ecology were not preferred, it was too luxurious. The subculture led to growing of the economy and people were attracted. A fear scenario is that the ecology is getting too big in proportion to the other sustainability factors and will have a negative effect on the economy to be expensive. If one of the three sustainability factors is growing larger than the others, one of them will break. The scenario we are all hoping for is that they all will be focused on and therefore are growing together and making the community strong.
The difference between the two areas is that Carlsberg is planning what Castlefleet did not, in the hope of getting the same results of flourishing artistic activity. So the area will have an attractive image. What to consider? Is it really possible to plan the unplannable? The preserved buildings will still be in Carlsberg and owned by the Carlsberg company. The two areas are approaching the same goal, but from very different starting points. Time is a big factor, and people today are more aware about the importance of sustainability and heritage. The conclusion is maybe not relative to the shrinking and growing concept, because we only have one example and a time factor plays a big role.